Because no matter how righteously you act toward your child in protective parenting, if that child doesn't transact with God, they won't be okay. It is a scary thing when you discover that your child has been viewing pornography and maybe even growingly addicted to that content and that behavior. But I want to encourage you to step back and think in broader, more biblical ways about this. If the Bible is accurate, that your children come into the world as sinners, and that the biggest issue for them is not just that evil exists out there, but that there's sin in their hearts. It should not surprise me that sinners are attracted to sin. That shouldn't shock you, parents. Think about this. This was the big error of the medieval monastery. I mean, what was the theory there? There's an evil world out there, and the way to stay righteous is to separate yourself from that evil world and build a big wall. Well, we know that the monasteries repeated every evil that was outside, because it's always the evil inside of me that hooks me to the evil outside of me. It's always a sin inside of me that causes me to be attracted to sinful things outside of me. And so you should not be surprised that your child will be attracted to sinful things. They may be attracted to ugly greed, or they may be attracted to gross materialism, and they may be attracted to illicit sexuality. So you shouldn't be shocked that a sinner is attracted to sin. The second thing, you should not react with such horror and such condemnation and such judgment that you drive your child away from you underground. You want to deal with this scary issue with patience and understanding and grace. How about saying, I am so sorry that we live in this kind of world, and that you have something inside of you that pulls you in this direction. And I'm like you. I get attracted to things that I should not be attracted to. And I go places I shouldn't go. And I hide things that are wrong. I share that identity with you. I can be just as foolish as you can be. But there's hope for us, because there's a God who offers help to sinners. The God who offers power we wouldn't have on our own, wisdom we wouldn't have on our own. I want to be part of this with you. Now, you see, you want to have a protective relationship with your teenager. You need to ask yourself the question, what kind of protections that do we need to put in place so this material is not so readily available to you? But you need to understand this. External protections are never enough, because the issue is your teenager's heart. It's his or her propensity to love what he or she should not love. So protections are never enough. You need to find ways, loving, patient, gentle, kind ways of talking about the presence and power of sin and God's redeeming, rescuing grace. Because no matter how righteously you act toward your child in protective parenting, if that child doesn't transact with God, they won't be okay. And so the parenting job doesn't end with protection. Literally, it must include the constant, loving, patient, situational preaching of the gospel of sin and grace. Because, first of all, protection doesn't work. But the larger issue is not that your child is struggling with pornography. The larger issue, the issue of life and death and eternity, is they don't have a heart for God. And because of that, they don't actually care what God says. And they will go wherever their pleasure leads them. One of the things I want to do is I want to produce in my teenager an awe of God. I want to talk about the glory of God every opportunity I can. I don't want to scramble a leg without talking about the glory of God. Isn't it amazing what God created? This, look at this embryo turns into something that's great for breakfast. The sunset, the song of the bird. I'm going to talk about God all the time. Here's why. When a child is in awe of God, when a teenager is in awe of God, he's predisposed to listen to the Word of God. If your child has no awe of God at all in their heart, it's so easy for them to blow off the call of God in the Word of God. And so, you don't just fight the sex battle horizontally. You got to fight it vertically. Because it's only when growing inside of this struggling teenager, struggling with temptation, is a desire for God, that you really now have the material of spiritual protection. Yes, you need horizontal protections in place, but you got to get at the vertical issues that drive a pleasure-oriented way of living.